Hello everyone, we are back again, and as you all know, I am Priya Patra. I am the Vice President Outreach of PMI Mumbai chapter, and again, this is my second term as the Vice President Outreach of the chapter. I am grateful that I have this opportunity to serve the chapter. Uh, yes, we are starting season 3 today. It's the third year of PMI chapter exchange, and we are very, very grateful to have so many chapters joining us today. I have Damike Mendes. He is our chapter leader from Sri Lanka on this call along with me. Damike.
Hi everyone, I'm Dhammika from PMI Sri Lanka chapter. I am the Executive Vice President of PMI Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Damike. We also do have Anita from Poland chapter. Anita.
Hello, I'm Aneta from PMI Poland chapter. I'm also Vice President of Membership. Welcome to today's meeting.
Thank you, Anita. I also see Taiwo from Nigeria chapter. Taiwo, would you say hi to everyone?
Hi, my name is Taiwo from PMI Nigeria chapter. I'm the Vice President Professional Development for Nigeria chapter. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Taiwo. And Greg from PMI Alaska chapter.
Hey, Greg Dubois here. I'm the Vice President of Outreach for the Alaska chapter.
Yes. And as you see on the screen, PMI Alaska chapter is the spotlight chapter of this event. We do also have the president of the PMI Alaska chapter and few more special guests on this event today to talk about the chapter. And then we will move ahead with the topic of the day today, which is project management trends for 2022. I do also have Pierre Excel, who is our chapter leader from South Africa chapter. Pierre, are you there? All right, looks like Pierre is having some issues joining in. Anyways, so as we said, welcome to PMI Chapter Exchange Season 3, Event 1. And today we are discussing project management trends for 2022. And as we said, this is a global PMI chapter collaboration initiative. And you see this badge over here, that is who we are. And these are all the chapters who are part of this program today, starting from Alaska to New Zealand and all continents and countries in between. And if I keep naming each one of them, probably it will take 10 more minutes. But you have heard a few chapter leaders on the call here. Unfortunately, we cannot call everyone here, but yes, this is a global initiative. And we are really thankful for all the support that we are getting from the chapters today. So yes, thank you for joining us. If you have still not taken the poll and letting us know from where you have joined in, please do so now. The link is there on the chat box, and Damike will also put in the link there now. And the code to menti.com is 31631032. Please do let us know from where you have joined in, and that really motivates us to continue forward. Yes, some working agreements before we get started. Yes, you are already taking the poll and letting us know from where you have joined in today. If you do have a question for the panelist, please type in the Q&A or the chat window. There will be a feedback link which will be shared at the end of the session and a QR code as well. Whichever is okay for you, you can use that to provide us with your feedback and what do you think about the event. This meeting has been recorded. So if you are uncomfortable in any ways, you may choose not to attend, but we really want you to continue. So you are welcome to continue. Please keep your mics on mute. I'm sorry, I think we should remove this because attendees are not allowed to open up their mics. Sorry about that because it's a large audience here. To manage it, we had to do this. Everyone in this meeting is speaking on their individual capacity, including myself. and our views do not represent our organization in any ways. Yes, with this, with Kickstart, our season 3, event 1, and I invite Dr. Srini Srinivasan to do the honors. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Srini. Let me introduce Dr. Srini. He does not need introduction, but yet he is the Regional Managing Director of Region 11 Project Management Institute. He's a senior leader, managed non-profit sector, global management consultant. He was a CEO, entrepreneur with 33 years of experience at the intersection of professional services, technology, and leadership development. And he is one of the most charismatic and, fun-loving leaders that I have come across. So thank you, Dr. Srini, for accepting our invite to come and kickstart this event. So over to you, Dr. Srini.
Priya, for the benefit of the audience, I think Priya has got me confused for somebody else, but we're not going to tell her. We're not going to tell her.
I told you he's funny.
But the only other plus point for me is that I didn't have to wake up as early as our colleagues from Alaska did this morning. So thank you for doing that. I think Abhishek has my slides. If he could be made the presenter, please.
Yes. Sunil, if you can make Abhishek the presenter.
It is an absolute privilege on behalf of PMI to welcome all of you to this very, very special event. It's a joy. More than a privilege, it's a joy. Those of you that have been around PMI far longer than I have can probably attest to the fact that this is a very special type of event. I don't think many people in the audience would have had the opportunity to be part of a 25 different global chapter collaboration. And what makes it even more special is the passion that all of you bring to this, not just this event, but what this event stands for. And more than anything else, the willingness and ability that you are showing to collaborate cross-border, cross time zones. And so it's a real privilege for me to be part of this event. Next slide, please, Abhishek. So having had the opportunity to be part of this event in the past, and I'm fortunate because Priya and the rest of the leadership team from the Mumbai chapter is part of our region. So whether she likes it or not, I show up for many of these meetings. And I just want to take a couple of minutes to share with you what we at PMI believe this chapter exchange platform stands for. And most importantly, what it's accomplishing. Because it's not just an event. It's really about bottling all of your passions, all of your experiences, all of your knowledge about the project management profession and beyond. And it's really about, as I said a minute ago, your willingness to share your experience, your knowledge, your beliefs, your values that cut across cultures, that cut across geographies, that cut across time zones. And for that, we at PMI are very grateful. Next slide, please. One of the things that I thought we could spend a few minutes on, because it's very topical, is the Megatrends 2022. Many of you would have already taken a look at the new PMI report on Megatrends 2022. But what I thought we could do is to take a minute, take a step back and say, what do these trends mean to us at PMI? Most of those trends are known to you and me, and especially in the last 2 years, many of these trends have become part of our lives, whether we like it or not. Whether it's digital disruption, whether it's the Great Resignation, whether it's equality movements, whatever the case might be. But I think it might be useful for us to reflect on what does that mean for us at PMI. And here are some thoughts that I'd like to leave with you. One of the key common denominators in all of these trends is, selfishly, is project management. Because every single one of these trends is a project or a set of projects or a set of programs in and of itself. So whether we like it or not, the common thread to all of these trends is the project management of those trends. Another thought that you might want to think about is that when you look at these mega trends, what becomes very clear very quickly, especially after COVID, is that the level of complexity of these type of projects and programs will become even more infinitely complex than they already are. So the level of complexity that you and I have to deal with as PM professionals, as change makers, has just gone up several notches, whether we like it or not. So we have to be ready for that. A third thought is, because of these trends and trends of this nature, it really challenges us as PMI, it challenges us as the profession to reinvent ourselves, to stay in the game. We have to innovate for relevancy. You've already seen PMI do that in the last 3 or 4 years. And many of you as chapters, as project management professionals in your own lives have done that. But I think what makes it even more critical is that we have to collectively ask the question, how do we stay relevant in the face of all of these trends? How do we stay a half a step ahead of the game? One other thought, these mega trends don't just reside in one industry sector or two industry sectors. Historically, as many of you know, PMI draws a lot of their members and certificate holders from the technology industry, from the information technology industry. But what is different about these mega trends is that they encompass all industry sectors. And therefore, what we as professionals have to think about, I think, is how do we create the right set of skills for ourselves to be able to play this game? One aspect that you might have seen before is this concept called the T-shaped project manager. And what it really stands for is the letter T. As you can imagine, it starts with having a breadth of experience on top, and then domain expertise in 1 or 2 domains to balance it out. So you're a generalist on one hand, but a specialist on the other. And this is something that we think these kind of mega trends push upon ourselves, whether we like it or not. Another key takeaway for me and for PMI from these mega trends is the way projects get executed has already changed dramatically, and they will continue to change dramatically. So take, for example, how the COVID vaccines have been developed. This is unprecedented. When you have scientists who, above everything else, prize their own intellectual capital, who are willing to share their intellectual capital, who are willing to work in collaboration with other scientists who they may never sit across the table from on a normal day, and find a way to develop an answer quickly for humankind. So what we see at PMI is that this trend will accelerate because of these mega trends. Take, for example, an organization like Johnson Controls. Many of you globally would know that name. At the start of COVID in the United States, Johnson Controls won an order from the US government to set up the infrastructure for 40 makeshift hospital sites, essentially COVID test centers. A $9 billion budget. That's the good news. The bad news is the government said, we want you to do this in 21 days. Not 2 years, not 18 months, not 12 months, 21 days, 3 weeks. And desperate times call for a lot of innovation. And Johnson Controls went ahead and did that. Those of you from this part of the world, in India, probably recognize a name called Bharat Electronics. It's a state-owned enterprise, a very slow, steady state-owned enterprise that deals in defense products, like missile systems for submarines and so on. So at the start of COVID, the government of India said, we want you guys to help us build ventilators because it was desperately needed in this part of the world. And guess what? A sleepy, a very non-agile state-owned enterprise like Bharat Electronics overnight changed their entire manufacturing process to make ventilators. And guess what? They'd never made ventilators in their life before. So what we recognize at PMI is complexity increases, but also innovation increases as a result of this. And projects will be done very differently. So you can expect, as a project leader, to have a project team that comprises the usual suspects, your own core team, perhaps a few customers, perhaps a couple of other functions within your organization, say procurement, say human resources. But guess what? Don't be surprised if your project team also comprises 3 of your competitors, because they are providing key software or technology for your product. And guess what? Don't be surprised if your project team comprises the customers, the end customers of your own customers. So what we're suggesting to you is that the landscape has changed dramatically because of these shifts. And last but not least, we think with all of these changes comes an enormous amount of responsibility for us as members of this profession. And that is to provide some kind of guardrails in terms of how to govern these extremely complex projects. So it's one thing to say complexity is increased, innovation is increased, et cetera, but at the same time, you can't have the wild, wild west. Our responsibility also encompasses being able to provide those fences, if you will, that allows the project to be done ethically, allows the project to be done properly, and allows the project to be done with the right stakeholder involvement and results. So those are the takeaways that I suggest I leave with you. Not so much the megatrends themselves, but what does it mean to us? And we can talk about this a lot, and I'm sure we will talk about it as we go along. But these are just some ideas I wanted to leave with you as food for thought. And my final slide. We think that chapter exchange is perhaps even more relevant today than it was ever before. because of these trends that I just talked about, because of the complexities that I just talked about, because of the landscape changes that I just talked about. Because 1 + 1 in this case is 25. I was never good at math, but I tell you, this beats everything I knew about math. But more than anything else, it's really, as I said before, the power that this platform brings to the table with PMI, at PMI, which we've never had the luxury of before. The cross-border, cross-cultural ideas, but also a safe harbor. An opportunity for you to discuss, to debate, to disagree, but at the end of the day, develop some common ideas and themes and a call for action. And help set some examples and standards for us at PMI in terms of how this type of extremely complex, extremely difficult, remote collaboration can actually work. Now, we at PMI always put out these reports and we say hybrid work is here to stay. Great. But then when you peel the onion, what does it look like? You will have to help us define that. And you will have to help not just define it, but also help implement it. And that's really the beauty of this platform. And I know that Priya and the core team are in the process of continuous learning. So I know you're introspecting right now, and you will decide what the next course of action looks like. But at the end of the day, what we're proud of is the sheer brain power that is assembled here today. And we at PMI cannot go wrong with this. Even if the Alaska chapter woke up at 3:30 this morning and we're shining the spotlight on them, we're absolutely proud of what all of you bring to the table. I mean, there are a lot of usual suspects. I know, Priya, we don't have time to call out everybody, but there are a lot of new organizations that have come together for the first time. So I welcome all of you, and I wish you much success. And as I said, we at PMI are so much richer for your coming together. So thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Srini, and really good takeaways from your talk, as always. And 3 points that I have taken home about this platform. Yes, cross-cultural. I remember, Srini, after the first year, when I spoke with you, you told us that, yes, you're doing a good collaboration, but take the learnings and see that how you can apply in a business scenario. And that is exactly what we are trying to do at this point of time. Yes, we have so many chapter leaders. I think 25 to 30 of them coming together. We are debating, we are deliberating, we are disagreeing, but yet we are coming to a common ground right here. And definitely last but not the least, yeah, we are trying to, I wouldn't say set examples, but trying to get some learnings for ourselves, at least to use in our workplace. Many people have told us that, even myself, I learned to use so many new tools. I learned to communicate with different cultures, understand their ways of working. So it's definitely a big learning experience for us. Thank you, Srini, for those words of wisdom. And with this, we move on to our spotlight chapter, as Srini has already mentioned. This is PMI Alaska chapter, and we have Sherry, who is the president of the PMI Alaska chapter, here to talk about the chapter. Along with Luann is also here. We are fortunate to have Luann as well, who is also going to shed some light on what this chapter is all about. So let me introduce Sherry. Sherry believes in 3P: people, process, and projects. And success, she says, is attributed to solid communication and building bridges between executive sponsors, frontline employees in cross-functional multicultural working environments. Wonderful. Sherry, before I hand over the stage to you, I have a question. Well, two questions for you. What is the time there now at your side?
It is 5:25 a.m.
Very good. So it's not so bad, Sherry. We are early morning. Yes. And if you look at the logo on your screen right now, the PMI Alaska logo, could you tell us what this logo signifies? The bottom right corner, what does that signify?
Sure, that is the state of Alaska. It is a picture of that, and it is basically our home. And so we wanted to share our home with everybody, and we wanted it to represent all members of Alaska.
Good. All right, then I will stop sharing my screen and hand over the stage to you.
Great, thank you so much. Well, I am very honored to be here today. We would basically like to tell everybody that Alaska is known for fishing, and here's a drum roll, snow. And so with that being said, we have a lot of fun activities up here for both the summer and in the winter. But to move forward with our speech here today, we wanted to talk about basically transforming with this new normal. I'm sure everybody here today has experienced that, and we're all in that mode of figuring out who we are and what do we need to be. And one of the areas that the Alaska chapter stopped and looked at and said, gosh, what is the first step we need to do? Because we all understand the first step, we need to make it, whether it's hard, easy, whatever have you. And ours was changing and transforming with our technology. And as we had just seen on a slide by Srini, he had a bullet point stating innovate for relevancy. And that is exactly what we thought we needed to do. With today's new environment, not everybody needs to show up to every meeting in person. And how did we do that? How did we get the message out? How are we reaching and being inclusive to all of our members who live all over Alaska? One of the things that we did is we updated our board collaboration tools. So before we can reach out to our members, we had to get ourselves together. Then we migrated and set up a new website, which has job postings for both members and employers. That brings our community together, right? We are also here for the employers because we want to provide quality project management to them as well. On top of that, it also brings an element of employees, so that's a service to our membership. And many of our members are looking for new jobs post-COVID. Another area that we saw is that the Alaska chapter of the board was all in one location. With bringing these new collaboration tools together, we were able to have multiple members of our board be from various locations in the state. In the past, that was very difficult. And even here today, many of the folks who are on the Alaska board or who are representing Alaska here are hundreds of miles apart. And so to us, that was really key to make sure that we had an inclusive environment. We also have some exciting news. We have a potential new branch for our Alaska chapter, so we're very excited about that. And Greg, who's here today, is also spearheading that initiative. And we're also really reaching out to all of our membership in terms of hybrid meetings. Now, I know that we had talked about the collaboration tools for the board, but we needed to make sure that we included everybody across the state. And I don't know if anybody realizes Alaska is really big and very diverse, and we have remote areas like many places here who are represented. I saw on the chat. Some places do not have really great bandwidth, they don't have good internet, but how could we still get out there and reach them? So along with our youth and social services director and along with some of our new hybrid tools, we are finding and innovating new ways to reach out to those particular areas. Another really great, exciting area that we are very happy to share here today is that the Alaska chapter was chosen by PMI Global to participate in a pilot program with our state college. And here with me today is Luann Picker to share just a couple of sentences about what we're doing there.
Thank you so much, Cherie. It's a really pleasure to be here. I'm Luann Picard, and I'm a member of the PMI board, but in my regular day job, I'm a professor at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. I just want to put in slight perspective what Cherie is saying about the size of Alaska. If you guys don't know, if you were to superimpose the state of Alaska across the entire continental United States, it would stretch all the way from California on the westernmost tip to Florida on the southeasternmost tip. So it is really big. And as Srini mentioned, we have a lot of remote communities. In fact, 2/3 of our communities aren't on the road system, so they can only be accessed by water or by air. So that is when we talk about vast distances, technology challenges, I think she kind of understated the complexity of it. And I'm really impressed and proud of our Alaska chapter for what they're doing to connect this community. I'm also really delighted that today we're being featured as the Spotlight chapter and joining this amazing collaboration. I was so excited, in the too distant past, to be one of the speakers like Srini was today. And I was so impressed with what this team has been doing. I've been following you for the last few years on LinkedIn, and was delighted to be invited to be a guest speaker, but even more delighted to be part of it now as part of the Alaska chapter, which I am a proud member. So I want to say another just brief thing about Alaska. It's a huge state, but we are a very, very close family with a big heart. That's what the Alaska chapter is all about. And as Srini mentioned, we are been doing some really cool things this year around making a really tight connection between our university and our local chapter. So I'm speaking of that for my university professor role as the chair of the project management department at the university. And this year it's been pretty exciting. We've done some things in the past. We've always had our students come to chapter dinner meetings so that they have a chance to hear from guest speakers and to do some networking and mentoring. But this year, a couple of really cool initiatives that we're part of is we're piloting a student membership program where between fall and spring, we're recruiting up to 100 new members that are student members to the chapter to really infuse that sort of youth and early career professional energy into the chapter. We are also going to be the first in the world to start a PMI Student Club this year, which we're really excited about. We'll be working with the chapter, of course, to provide sort of tailored content, which helps the early career professionals to really engage with the chapter and find unique value add. And then there's another program that we've been doing for some years. I don't know if Josiane Baline is on the call yet, but it was part of her capstone project when she was getting her master's degree was to do something called a Synergy project, which was to find projects from chapter members or the chapter itself that students could use as assignments during their education. So we're going to be really strengthening the connections through all kinds of different programs that connect the university very, very closely with the chapter. And I'm really proud to say, and I think Sheree and Greg would agree, that a lot of the senior leaders in the chapter, senior volunteers, board members, officers, actually are students that have come from our program and who are members and also volunteer leaders for the chapter. So I'm really proud of that. Thanks for the opportunity to share some of those ideas. If anyone is interested in learning more, they can certainly reach out and contact me. But thank you so much for the opportunity for us to be here today. We're really excited. So back to you.
Thank you, Luann. I really appreciate that. I ditto everything that she says. Excuse me. And thank you for sharing a little bit more about our chapter as well. We're very honored and very appreciative of the relationship that we have there. And there's been some valuable insight and some valuable board members and really some innovative ideas that have come out of many of those students there. So that's a great opportunity for us to collaborate as well. With that being said, again, we're honored to be here today, and I'm going to hand this back over to Priya.
Thank you, Sherry. And that was a good insight about PMI Alaska. And now, without taking much time, just a quick introduction about what Chapter Exchange is all about. I'll be very, very brief. This is our third year. Everyone knows what this is all about. It's all about virtual collaboration. And we do have 24 chapters today on this platform. It's about teamwork. We do have this monthly webinars. We publish some insight exchange nuggets, which is key takeaways from our events. And by doing this, we are building a community, sharing good practices across the globe. And of course, we are seeing growth, expansion through diversity, inclusion, and equity of thoughts. And with this, I will, hand over the session to Justine. She is our session moderator for the day. I will just briefly introduce her. She is a very, very dynamic, transformational leader. And she has a history of driving full life cycle, complex technical projects, including government. That would be probably very, very challenging. She is consistently driving high quality deliverables on time within budget in demanding, fast paced environments. She has a record of using both waterfall and agile techniques and collaborating with stakeholders to facilitate achievement of cost-effective solutions. And with this, I hand over the stage to you, Chastin, to take us through project management trends for 2022.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Priya, for that introduction. I am here in Alaska, born and raised. I don't live in an igloo and I don't wrestle polar bears, but I do get to do a lot of fun things up here in Alaska. And of course, with this global economy that we are now in, I get to work all over the world and enjoy the remote lifestyles of being in Alaska. So excited to be here, so honored to be here with this panelist of amazing, amazing project professionals. I would love to introduce them for the group. We're going to go through some questions and hopefully get a lot of questions from the participants in the meeting today too. That being said, Sergio, oh my goodness, why don't we go ahead and let you introduce yourself to the group?
Yes. Thank you, Chastin. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Well, I can say that my name is Sergio Vázquez Kaufman from Lima, Peru, with more than 20 years of experience in IT project management for industries such as banking, retail, telecommunications, and digital media. And I have to add that I'm happy to have been living and working in different countries, such as Peru, Chile, Ecuador, England, and also Germany. So as you can guess, I really love intercultural communications. So I really feel at home in an event like this. I'm really happy. Now I'm working as a program manager at Baufest and also teaching project management in a local university. And regarding PMI activities, I am co-creator of the Academy of English for Project Management, an initiative of the PMI Lima, Peru chapter. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Sergio. Coming to us all the way from Germany, Thomas, please introduce yourself to the group.
Yes, hello, thank you. I'm Thomas Valente. I was born in Germany. I'm living in Germany, but I traveled the world with more than 100 countries on behalf of IBM and its clients, and on the behalf of PMI when I was there in different volunteer positions. So I did my first project in 1974. Some of you were not born at this time. I decided to become a career project manager in 1988 after I had a project where I really had no clue what we are doing, but I enabled communication and translation and building bridges. And this was a success story, in the end. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. As I said, I'm from Germany, and I should represent Europe. But Europe itself is very diverse. So we have Great Britain, who went out of the EU, and we have now Ukraine trying to become a part of Europe. Russia is a part of Europe. So the whole world is condensed in Europe, and it's hard to represent Europe. Other than really to issue some very, very provocative statements. So I will do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Thomas. Let's see here, coming to us from the African continent, all the way from Zimbabwe, Chester, please introduce yourself to the group.
Thank you very much, Justine. My name is Chester Ziradzemuka. My name is very long, but I'm a chartered banker. I've been a career banker for 30 years. That's the only industry I've worked in, except recently where I've become a consultant for the past year and a half. I've worked in the region across Africa, the SADC region, East Africa, and have done a bit of collaborative work with West African countries. So I'm a chartered banker with the Institute of Scotland, and one of the key things there, that's something that I am expecting also in the PMI Institute. I'm a member of the PMI Institute of Zimbabwe as well, is the issue of sustainability and the issues of climate change that are coming and how that's going to impact project management as we move forward, because it's now a topical issue in the SDG goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chester. And last but not least, we have Janani from India. Janani, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group?
Sure. Hi, Justin. Hope I'm audible. Hello, everyone. I think greetings and hope I'm seeing you all safe and healthy in this pandemic. So I'm Janani from India, Bangalore. Happy to be representing the large continent of Asia today here. I think I would be probably the youngest in the group today. I hold an industry experience of 12 plus years. I've been working predominantly in the area of artificial intelligence. Now I work for Bosch as a program manager handling artificial intelligence projects and blockchain as a technology. Have been delivering solutions for a number of customers across the globe in predominantly the domains of automotive, healthcare, industry, robotics, and many more. Looking forward for this discussion today. Over to you, Justin.
Wow, wow. Oh my goodness, what an impressive group we have here today. I hope everyone is getting on their keyboards and putting those questions in the chat. So put those in and we will start answering your questions. To start off with, Thomas, I have a question here that I think would be good for you. We're 1 year into PMBOK 7. How relevant do you think the 7th edition has been to organizations and their teams?
Yeah, I think this is a question that many of us ask if you are in the consulting business trying to establish PMOs, you know. And if you look at the past and even at the present, we have a very process-oriented nature of establishing PMOs, because, you know, PMO is somehow trying to improve effectiveness, the values that come out of projects and efficiency. That's all process driven in the past. And the new PMBOK 7 doesn't give a lot of focus on processes. They are more principle based. So it still has to evolve how this can be implemented in organizations and how it can help organizations to build a standardized environment. And standards are important because, you know, without a standard, you cannot easily exchange your people, your employees between projects. You cannot really establish some common reporting, some overview, some transparency about what you're doing. So the question is very valid, and it will prove over time who is using PMBOK 7 to establish some standards, some PMOs, some ways of working within the company. It's certainly valid for the individual to learn about project management and to see the whole range of techniques you have there. But how organizations can benefit from it, it's still to be proven.
Okay.
I really I said I want to be a little bit provocative. So if somebody has another opinion or even can give some ideas about that, feel free.
You heard it from Thomas. Put in your questions or your provocative statements about PMBOK 7. Okay, let's see here. How about Sergio? How do you think the globalization of our economy has changed project management and the roles of project managers?
Hello. Oh, yes. Well, globalization, has been here for years, right? So I think every time these kinds of waves of change appear, well, they have an impact on the way people interact and, of course, on the way projects are managed. For example, when the economy became global, we were able not only to do business with companies located in other countries, but we were also becoming a more international and intercultural society. So then project management had to adapt the processes and the required competencies for the role of the project manager. So I can add something like further modifications and updates to both project management and the project manager happened due to a lot of changes, such as massive internet access, disruptive technologies. We all know all of that, agile methods, digital transformation, and of course, the biggest of all, COVID-19 pandemic. So all of them produced great impacts in project management and in the role of project managers. But I repeat, all these kinds of waves of significant change have an impact on project management. And of course, we need to keep up to date all the time to remain competent. So it's a huge effect every time everything changes, especially COVID-19. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. So very true. Trying to stay relevant in our careers. Chester, staying with the topic of economics, how do you think this fourth industrial revolution affects project management and how it plays a role in transforming economies like Africa?
Thank you for that question. So I think project management, I think now is required ever the more to ensure that projects are implemented with greater accuracy, so we don't build white elephants. One of the biggest challenges in Africa is internet connectivity and just getting teams together and collaborating. Because of this pandemic, people have been so spaced up, and the impact it has had on economies is immense. Trying to shift and build enough capacity for project managers, their participants, to revolve or come around a project and ensure that it's implemented. And we can't run away from the digital transformation that's going on. Even here in Africa, I think there's a huge divide of poor and rich. And I think project management plays a huge role in bridging that gap and ensuring projects are delivered to communities irregardless of their economic status.
Yeah, oh my goodness, absolutely. Janani, you work over in the engineering sector. How widespread are you seeing the use of hybrid approaches in your area?
Say it is vast. Okay, so I think in the recent days there's been a larger migration from the various project management fundamentals, and I think in engineering space, more relevant that all of us know, the technological disruptions has been really massive. If we just go check back with the Gartner cycle and the hype curves, it has been typically a decade long for each of the technologies in the past. So this is on an average. But today, luckily or fortunately or unfortunately, I think pandemic is also kind of accelerating the adoption of such technologies, which means the disruptions from the technological aspect is pretty fast and accelerated today. Given this, there is a high need for adopting and kind of a mindset change or a cultural change in adopting new ways of project management methodologies, where typically from waterfall the migration has been to agile, and more often we always see, also personally while executing several projects, we are not able to just confine with one of these methods. And I think that in the last couple of years has given birth to hybrid methodologies. Now, I think this is where project managers play a key role in selecting or tweaking between these methods, which rightly fits with your projects. Because there's a lot of uncertainties, there's a lot of uncertainties in terms of people, in terms of the customer requirements, and But at the same time, there has to be certain certainties that have to be kept in mind when it comes to deliverable of a project. So putting all this together, I see a big adoption of hybrid methodologies today in engineering spaces, where there are technology intensive projects that are ongoing.
Fantastic. It's Sergio, kind of keeping with the theme of that question, since we are seeing a large ramp up in companies and teams using a hybrid methodology in all sorts of sectors, what do you think they should be focusing on skill set wise and maybe additional training?
Yeah, thank you, Chestin. Well, yes, we have seen in our region also a very common use of hybrid methodologies and methods, trying to adapt and trying to find the best method to run the projects. So in this world that is more based on remote work, I have to say that we need more trust and less control. Yeah, so we need to adapt also the model, the way we work, because you know that this world has changed everything with the COVID. So the way we buy, the way we study, the way we do business has changed. So yes, hybrid methodologies I think are a good answer to that problem. But we need to adapt not only between agile and waterfall. I'd like to connect what Thomas was saying about the PMBOK 7. The thing that I liked from PMBOK 7th edition is the flexibility, and that is principle based. They are not defining run this project like this with this methodology. They are just open, and they trust more in the expertise or in the capacity of adapting and choosing and tailoring what is the best method to apply. So I think hybrid is fine, but not only between agile and waterfall. We need to do something like a blended system between remote and face-to-face. Don't forget that in this year, probably some people will be returning to the face-to-face mode, and others will keep doing remote work. So that's my answer. Thank you, Chestin.
Yeah, absolutely. Thomas, kind of sticking with that theme, with the majority of workers working remote or in a hybrid state, what do you think has become some of the biggest challenges for project management in today's economy?
Well, it's we all learned to work in teams that were set up before Corona, and we met the people before, but suddenly it was all virtual. It was all, only through Zoom or WebEx or you have it. So what's really missing in this virtual environment is we cannot use all our five senses. We just can see people and we can watch and we can hear them, but then you can touch, you can smell, you can taste, and so we don't use all our senses really to connect with people, and that's somehow missing, and people are missing it. And I was astonished, for some conferences I saw, people were trying really to reestablish this kinds of involvement of all senses. So why not really define a project sense, and give everybody a small file, and we smell our project before we have a Zoom conference, or touching something. Why not have an exercise like everybody in this call puts his right hand on his cheek, and touches, and then we all feel that cheek being touched. We are one big community of 725 participants, and most of us touch on that cheek, and we feel, how we can bind together. So we can try to bring up these senses, despite we are not really in the same room, on the same table. And I think this is something we have to try a little bit more, because some people think, okay, Corona's over, we go back to the status we had 2 years ago. That will not happen, because economic things or travel restrictions, they will preserve, or people don't want to go to crowded places anymore because they feel unsafe for themselves. It's a personal thing. I don't think we go back to where we were, but we will move to something that will take into account how we changed. Think about the kids going to school. They are used to put up a mask every day, and they will do it. And we will see that our society is changing, the people on projects are changing, and we have to accommodate for that and to invent new ways to working in that virtual environment and build teams. So as I said in the beginning, we all were used to the people we were had on the calls, but now if you create a new project, you get a new team, you get new people, and how to select them, how to build a team without being able to see them face to face. That's something we have all to tackle.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Thomas. Chester, staying with the theme of project success, what do you think are some of the key factors to a successful project?
No, thank you, Justine. Yeah, for me, I think through my experience, it's stakeholder engagement comes right at the top. How you engage and set the tone of the project from the board itself, the board of the company, have to be convinced about the project. Coming to the C-suite, they have to be absolutely committed to the project and deliver the statement of what are the key deliverables to the final beneficiaries who are the customers of the company. So I think at the outset, it's the people at the topmost, your board, your C-suite have to be engaged thoroughly and have to be updated every step of the way. Then you come to your senior and middle management and the guys at the bottom who actually do the running around. That's the hardest part. Getting those guys to balance between business as usual and getting some of those resources contribute their efforts into a specific project is a challenge. And for you to be successful as a project manager, you really need powerful and strong and convincing interpersonal skills. You must engage with the topmost guys, you must engage with the sweeper. The sweeper needs to know, I like the NASA example, that you ask a sweeper at NASA what they are doing, they tell you they are helping send the shuttle to the moon. So they're all convinced about the project. So that's the level at which project managers need to sensitize everyone in the organization. The moment a project lands on their table is to convince everyone top down. And then your project will be successful. And you won't get people plugging in the holes and not just doing something because they are busy with business as usual. Thank you.
Yeah, so true. Stakeholder engagement, so important and so very difficult at times. Janani, I have a question for you here. Let's see here. COVID-19 pandemic has brought several impacts and challenges in project management. This person would like to know, what are some of the lessons learned so far in order to mitigate restrictions and budget changes?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Chester. So I think COVID has been kind of a game changer, not just for the global economy or the technologies, but I think for each and every I would say group of organizations and employees and various talents, right? And project managers are left no out of the scope. So project management and handling these challenges from pandemic, I think some of the best lessons learned is people can work from anywhere and still can deliver projects. I think this is something has been a myth. I think we had that kind of a barrier, or we hadn't tried previously in terms of working remotely, at least for a span of 2.5 years, and then still being able to deliver projects without delays. So I think this was a great learning for organizations, employees, project managers together, saying that yes, this is still possible. I think the key thing to achieve this is communication and having the team very cohesive in terms of having the trust built, seamlessly, and then taking it forward so then we are able to achieve the project deliverables. Challenges have been plenty because more often it's also about the team falling sick and people not available, which definitely means we are not able to deliver within the timelines. But I think on the budget side of it, definitely at least in general experience, there has not been a big hit, but definitely with respect to timelines, there has been a lot of challenges in terms of achieving within the planned timelines. But budget, yes, I think partially, and that's I think part of the game which we also learned in 2021. I think definitely businesses are getting better in 2022.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Let's see here. We have another question about a hybrid environment. Sergio, we have how does the agile and hybrid methodologies, which can incorporate or replace the areas where traditional methods were previously used? This is someone coming from the energy sector, and they want to know how to replace agile approaches to their current serial approaches.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thanks for the question. It is like have a magic solution. No, the question was very, very open and very specific, but it's not easy to answer. But I can say some insight that can help. Yeah, especially in energy sector. Thank you for having mentioned the sector, because if we say IT sector, that can be working at a different speed, no? But the transition from traditional methods in project management to agile methods, for instance, in IT, the problem that we normally see, even today, is the mindset. The agile mindset, we don't see there. It's not easy to find there in all the stakeholders, the major stakeholders involved. So even they are saying that they are using agile, using sprints, using the ceremonies, events, they are still trying to control. They are still trying to say, well, but the deadline was this end of the month. Why it's not working? It's because you are using agile. So the mindset is not clear sometimes. That is one of the challenges. Yeah, and then even with agile coaches, even with everything else, we have still some traces of waterfall or traditional ways of managing things in our heads. Yeah, so for the high management and top management, the important thing is the bottom line, the results, the benefits. So I would say that we have to keep in mind that the results are not non-negotiable. Results and benefits should be there, and we need to try to adapt all the processes or tailoring the processes to try to guarantee to end up with the result that will be very valuable, with high value. Yeah, but if the question was how can we go to one system to another, it's a long way to go. And I think it is not just because we must go there, it is just to find the good things and the benefits of going agile. There's a lot of benefits, for instance, to be flexible in the processes and to focus on the things that are more important and more valuable, to deliver earlier, because we are delivering earlier, of course. So hybrid will be anyway, because we cannot switch from traditional to agile at once. Yeah, so, but there's a long way, and I would recommend to focus on the benefits and marking and tracking the milestones about that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great point, Sergio. For the people who are making those agile transformations, you can use agile in your agile transformation and do small increments of it. Just work it into your process. Fantastic. Hey, Chester, what do you think are the upcoming trends we're going to see in project management this year?
Thanks, Justin. So I think what we definitely will see is one of the expectations, I think, from quite a number of project managers that I've been working, talking to closely, is use of more digital tools in terms of collaboration. I think like the point that Thomas mentioned around the issues around the pandemic and the fear among a lot of people is effective tools. I think the use of effective tools where you actually not only hear someone's voice, but at least get to a point where you visualize some of their responses. You can see eye to eye what's happening. So a lot more of that is going to happen. And I think those are some of the trendy things. And in some of my consultancy work, I have worked a lot more in my office in Angola. I've been in Mozambique. I've been in Malawi. I've been to Nigeria in my office without getting myself on an aeroplane. So I think more of the digital tools are going to be leveraged by a lot of PMs. And the more we learn about effective tools, the better as project managers, because we become much more effective in ensuring we implement. We don't necessarily need to jump on a plane every other time and spend 8 hours on a flight to be effective. So some projects can be closed from where you are. So it's about learning the effective tools. I think Jira and there's so many of these players that have been trying to update. But again, it's about which bracket and cost areas do you and your other project managers, what tools are common amongst yourselves and how to effectively use them. I think that's a trend that I see developing more and more without physical contact.
Yes, so true. And I don't know if it will be a trend in 2022, but I hope that it is. The element of one of the Agile manifestos is face-to-face conversations. Of course, in this day and age, we can't do face-to-face, but turn your camera on so we can see everyone's beautiful smile while we're talking. Thank you so much, Chester. So we're getting a lot of questions about working in a hybrid environment. Thomas, can you tell me what are some of the technologies folks should be learning to use in this hybrid environment?
Well, let me first refer to Chester, and he's right. Using technology in any environment will be a trend which you'll see. And I ran into last year, one tool who is analyzing as an AI tool all the communications within a team. So you have some emails, or you have a Teams environment, or whatever you use, a Jira, and it's analyzing these environments, and it develops recommendations and insights how the team is working together. Do we have in-groups? Do we have dominating people? Do we have conflicts raising? This is the tool that gives you this information, which you would maybe have gotten if you had a face-to-face war room in a project in previous times. So there are tools able to somehow replace these insights and even give you more insights than you could have before, because if you have a team, let's say, of 30, 40 people, you are not able to even talk to everybody every month. But the tool is able to see everybody on a daily basis. Regarding hybrid, I have a very I'm quite old, and I've seen hybrid already in one of my first projects in the 70s, and it's really when we define hybrid as traditional and agile coming together in an environment, we use that. Digital agile from PMI saying, choose your way of working, and traditional and waterfall is one way of doing that, and you have a big toolbox and you just choose for this project, you have at hand what is necessary. And to be honest, I had in all my projects which now would be labeled as waterfall. They were not waterfall. Well, there was a roadmap, but it was not that they all were predictive. We always had some rolling wave planning and some changes. I remember one rollout in Moscow for SAP, which certainly had a waterfall schedule. But then we had for almost 9 months, we had every week the full Friday was a change management. We called it change management, but it was backlog grooming, if you want, because every week we looked at our requirements and what should we do next week, and it took the full Friday with all the functions involved, so finance, logistics, sales, and you name it. And this had to be done because the Russian environment, is from legislation is a little bit different to Western environments. So looking at hybrid, for me it's another word for this is project management, and we're using any knowledge and model and tool what is available. And thankfully, these amounts of tools and knowledge gets wider and gets more. So we have more to cover, and we have to be more knowledgeable about what's available in the market. And again, to the tool I mentioned in the beginning, this tool is called Pairflow, and it gives you an insight in your team in a virtual way, insights you wouldn't have before Corona, but now you can have it.
Interesting. Thomas, we have a question from the group asking about, are you allowed in Germany to use AI on terms of communication from a privacy perspective? They say they think that there are rules preventing monitoring employees in such ways.
Sure, they are, but and I know that IBM Germany, which I worked for, that's the benefit of having a working council, and having we have laws, but the working council is able to develop ways with the board to have a policy within the company how to do that. And the working council is representing the rights of the employees. So yes, for all projects, naturally at IBM Germany, we use tools. And it started with Microsoft Project and having your hours counted every week and everything. These are all data privacy things. And we have laws, and they have to be monitored. But we can really define together on an equal base, employees and management, ways how to implement necessary efficiency tools. And we did that.
Wow, okay, fantastic. Thank you. Chester, we're getting a lot of questions from folks who are in the construction industry or oil and gas industries that don't feel like they have direct correlations to an agile approach. What would be your recommendation to the folks who are working in a more regulated environment when it comes to the methodologies they should approach in their work environment?
Thanks, Justine. So I think from such industries, I think it should probably start within their own professional bodies, right? Is engineers, those in the construction, their own associations, in terms of analyzing these other new methodologies like your Agile versus your waterfall. And as a body agreeing how relevant are these new project management tools? Again, I think what is it that gets the job done and gets the job done effectively and avoid rework or errors? And I'm sure in these industries, these guys they deal with expensive materials running into billions. Putting out an oil rig in the middle of the ocean requires meticulous detail and planning and exquisite project management skills. And I think it's having a team within their own associations or as an association and a board saying, let's adopt this, and how our project managers familiar with Agile, are we confident enough before you approach a regulator? Because then you, as a body, you need to approach the regulator and present your case, because no regulator refuses any presentation from anyone. We have known it from the financial service sector. You want to launch a product, you're not going to launch a product without approaching the regulator with having taken care of risk management issues. How are you going to deal with customer complaints if your project goes the other way? How are you going to mitigate all of those things? So I think my best advice is, as a professional body, is to look at the new methodologies. Are they relevant or better in any way to what we are doing? Or do we make them hybrid? And then how do we present our case to the regulators? And also the regulators educating them of the benefits. And if there are any risk issues associated with any new methodologies, you must go there prepared to face those questions, and you must do the background work. But yeah, because I think it's crucial to really sit down as an industry and as a professional body and agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting that buy-in, and definitely when it comes to stakeholders, you got to give them what they want before you can give them what they need, right? Sergio, we had a question come across, still referencing industries like gas and oil and construction, those less IT-focused industries. How do you think workers should plead their case for project management structures? So the question comes across: what should we do when there isn't any PMO or PMI structure in our work environment? How do we plead our case?
Well, it's such an interesting question because we have some other approaches from PMI. For instance, we have the maturity model. For instance, we can say something like in the example that we're given. We can say that the maturity in terms of project management culture in those companies are rather low. So of course, project management consultants, we are a lot here, are needed. But I mean, for instance, first of all, PMI is not trying to agilize anybody. PMI is not saying that we have to move to agile. It's not saying that. I can remind something that Thomas said. We need to find a way that the things will work to get the work done, first of all. But if we're not talking about going to agile or to hybrid, we are talking about project management practices. We can apply the model of PMI of maturity. So we can first try to do an assessment on those companies and try to determine what is the level of their processes in terms of project management in the theoretical, so in the procedures written, and also in the practices, and try to find the gaps, and then try to make like a roadmap how to make that happen in terms of going up and up every time, but something that can be done in that company, nothing revolutionary. I mean, I hope the answer could be more or less what it was expected. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. And so true. There's a lot of questions around hybrid and agility, but I don't think anyone here is saying standard project management is not something we should be trying to achieve. It depends on the industry and your work environment. All right, Janani, let's hear. We have a question here. Again, around the pandemic. And so let's hear, when the pandemic started, everyone adopted working remotely. So now there's a lot of virtual meetings, and you have people who are in the office and you have people who work virtual in these hybrid work environments. How do you think people should handle the feeling of the virtual employees not having their time zones or schedules respected, and everything is based off of the people who are just working in the office?
Thanks, Kristen, for this question. I think this is very important today because previously, when meetings are planned, it has been where we operate from office, and it's much better in terms of planning and communication when we are face to face. When the pandemic struck, and specifically that people are more working remotely, and now that organizations are also encouraging hiring of employees remotely across the globe. So it doesn't matter where you are in the globe, you can be connected to any organization. I think this kind of opportunities are really opening up now. The reasons are because we have learned during the pandemic as project managers in various areas how to handle people working flexibly. I think this is a key thing. And it doesn't matter whether all of them are attending meetings together, but what is more important as a project manager is to establish kind of, digital boards or things like that, where the discussions are properly documented. So then people who even don't attend the meetings at a particular time are able to go back and then get all the relevant information required. So I think it's more now getting important in terms of how do we engage remotely, not just at the same time, but also flexibly in terms of getting all the required information communicated to all of the team, but still all of them are able to take up with the pitch of what is happening within the project. I think this is one important aspect. The second important aspect is definitely, as we all are aware of, the world is not going to change back post-pandemic like the way we were working before. So we are not definitely going to get back completely into offices, all of us. I think organizations are also aligning to this. It's going to be a mix of work where people are going to be remotely put up, where people are going to be in office. So I think it's a kind of also a mindset break that we'll all have to inculcate in terms of it doesn't matter where you're working from, but it is about the delivery and the output or the result that you're trying to bring to the table. So once this is, I think, recognized and realized and more often talking about, it's going to bring things to space.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Janani. Chester, I have a question from Gilberto here in Brazil. He wants to know, what are some of the tips for managing projects with innovation for developing countries such as Brazil? He's working on a sanitation project, and it has new technology, and new technologies are becoming a trend there in Brazil.
Thank you, Justine. Yeah, I think all of them is communities or what service you are providing. So that innovation, I think it's really going out and looking for whatever technology you find. It's important to look for where it has actually been implemented, get some test cases or some results of what it has actually done and where the benefits and value that technology has created. So it's very important because there are so many salesmen out there, especially hiding behind the word innovation. And they can sell you anything, really. But I think it's important to do so much due diligence. And in cases where it's developing nations, the budgets are so tight and everyone will be after your neck on what value have you created and added to the communities that are to benefit from such a program. So if it means going out to actually see where this innovation has been implemented and used and getting first-hand information on the value it has created, the benefits, because I think one of the key tenets in project management, more so the Scrum methodology that I have been using lately, it's the benefit realization that is important, and also prioritizing quick wins. How is your prioritization or matrix built? Is it a quick win solution? People want to see something that works faster, especially in developing nations. If it's going to take 2 years, people get tired and then they start thinking you are stealing money or the project is not being executed effectively. But if you start demonstrating quick wins, people start buying into the project and they start supporting it fully. And also getting local community participation in the project plays a huge role, because you want them to feel they own it and they've made a contribution towards it. So that's one of the important things I think in developing nations that you might want to think of when you bring in any innovation, is involve the communities as well.
Yeah, fantastic, Chester. And circling all the way back on what Thomas said earlier, you go out and touch the cheek of innovation. We're getting a lot of questions still about how to implement project management and or hybrid methodologies in oil and gas industry. Thomas, do you have anything for the group for how do you implement a hybrid methodology in a gas and oil industry?
Well, as I said before, I think maybe oil and gas already has a lot of hybrid because they are using methods, depending on the circumstances that they're in. They are adapting and they have to react on environmental changes. So they are already agile in a certain way. So I wouldn't be hold up on concepts and words, how we are doing stuff. Agile will add some more toolbox to abilities to react, and you can try to do it. So if you are laying a pipeline, let's say, you better have some pre-planning and you have some understanding what's going on. But if you are reacting to some storms or some problems that arise, you have to be very quick and agile and employ a lot of maybe plan Bs and contingencies you have prepared for, hopefully. So good risk management stays important, and it also stays important that you employ good safety measures. We don't want to see an oil spill, and I think most of the companies have now seen that it's more expensive and maybe dangerous for your existence if you let the quality and safety slip than if you implement good tools. So oil and gas, I think, already is producing a lot of good stuff and has a lot of limitations from regulations and so. And for that, I think they are doing a good job. And even if it's not called yet hybrid, so they are doing hybrid in my way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mohammed just mentioned disciplined agile is also a good option for today's project management. And for those of you who are not familiar with disciplined agile, that's PMI's adoption and solution for agile. I've been lucky enough to be one of a handful of disciplined agile champions around the world with PMI. So if you haven't heard much about disciplined agile, that's a great place to start. Agile is the manifesto, which is mostly your mindset, the way that your ideologies, and then there's the methodologies, and then there's the different frameworks. And so check out Discipline Agile if you're interested in the PMI's version or solution to an agile deployment. Thank you, Thomas. Let's see here. I got another question here. Janani, how would you handle a client wanting to change, we'll say, scope and or materials midway through the project that's going to greatly impact your end result?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. So I think this is more common with technology projects, at least in terms of where I think that's where more often adopting hybrid methodologies has worked to deliver projects in this space, because more often when the requirements are there in place and then we start working towards the deliverable, there's more likely when the customer sees the first working prototype or the first minimum viable product, what we more often call it as an MVP, then they more often realize there is a gap with respect to the business requirements and what this MVP could address. And that's where requirement starts evolving. So, but certainly in many of these aspects, your budget is fixed. That's the trump card what you have. for the customer, but not for the working groups. So now it's about the project managers, skills and the process that we bring into place to see how we put this into the plan, still being able to meet the business requirements, but with a manageable budget. There's I think a very important aspect of it, and that's where, as also Dr. Srini mentioned at the beginning, it's very important for project managers now to have this T-shaped skill set where we are able to understand from day one the business requirements, add value. So I think value creation is very important as a project manager, and see. And I think with experience while handling a couple of projects, the very beginning we'll be able to delve into the business value creation chain and then be able to comment this may work and this may not work, but potentially to start with, these are, I think, parts and parcels of every project that we start with, but experience would help us to optimize these things much better going forward.
Yes, so true. MVP. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let's see here, Sergio. We have a question here from Monica. Monica wants to know, with the disconnects that we've had with people and coworkers over the last couple of years, what are some ideas we could use to start successfully rebuilding relationships?
Thank you, Justin. Well, that's the word, rebuild relationship, no? But we can have two different sets here because depending on what we have been doing with our customers during the pandemic and during these couple of years. For instance, if we have been keeping in touch with the customers or some ways or somehow with emails, with some trends, sending some newsletters, or sometimes even giving some basic services to them, even at a lower price. So if we have done something like that, we are in advantage of not rebuild, it's just relaunch the relationship that is already there. But we have another set of situations where we have done nothing like that because it was not possible, whatever reason, and then we need to relaunch. And to relaunch or to rebuild, of course, we need to start again because it is like a team building. We need to build the team again. The relationship, we need to build that again. But we need to show that we are an up-to-date company so that now we can play in a very good way with the modern times we are facing, yeah, with the remote world, with the remote tools, with an updated set of skills of our consultants or our business people. So we need to show that we are a good option to them because they will remind us from the past, but they will recognize that we are a good player of today. That's, I think, one of the key points. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sergio. And let's see here. Oh, we just had one come in here. Let's see here. How about Chester? We have a question here that wants to know, what are your recommendations for educational institutions for postgraduate programs with regards to project management so that management challenges faced by organizations are not far from what is addressed in the curriculum? Okay. Interesting. I think our professor of project management here with us today from Alaska might be able to chime in on that one. But Chester, do you have any recommendations for us?
You just told the words out of my mouth because I enjoyed the work the professor is doing towards this issue of curriculum. And I really want to give the floor to really elaborate on this point.
Sure, I'd be delighted to tackle that question. And I think the project, as we all know, project management is about doing and applying. And so I think that the key to connecting the academic environment with the absolute and current needs of the profession are to involve students in engaged learning. So having projects that are actually in the professional community and in the classroom where students are collaborating with people in the real world and actually applying the work of project management in a real world setting is probably one of the most effective ways of being able to not only build collaboration with the professional community, but learn, because sometimes academia can seem a little bit more theoretical. But I think the best way to learn is to learn some theory, but then go and apply it, bring what you learned back into the classroom, and then have that engaged sort of reflective learning environment. So I would encourage any of you who are in the chapters, also maybe some of you that are in academia, wherever, to really leverage your university resources to bring the industry into the classroom with in partnership with your professors there locally, because that's where that learning occurs. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Luann, for jumping on that impromptu question. Let's see here. We have another question here. Looks like Agile is not a magical solution. True words have never been spoken, but we'll get back to that later. Agile is not a magical solution to manage all projects. It's very powerful, but some projects still need another kind of approach. What would you say to environments, we'll turn this around, that are trying to deploy Agile in areas where a more sequential approach should be taken? Chester, do you want to go ahead and take that one?
In my case, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, go ahead, Sergio. Chester, looks like you might be having bandwidth issues.
Sorry.
Right.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Chester,
right.
please.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I can start half of the question. Okay, while Chester is coming back. Well, I can say yes, Agile is not magic solution, and there is no project management approach as a magic solution. It is not Agile, it is not traditional. We don't have a magic solution, because if we have a magic solution, we probably would not be here. No, so yeah, we need to first of all study the problem and then try to find what is the best approach. In that sense, the PMBOK 7th edition, I think, is a very good advance in that. But of course, it will take time to understand and to all of that. Yeah, it will take time, even a few years probably. But yeah, when Agile is recommended, when, for instance, the scope is not completely clear, we are not very clear on what to do, what the deliverables will be. If we are doing, for instance, an innovation projects, let's say something like a flying car or something like that, to mention something, we need to discover the scope during the project. If we need to do something like that, Agile, of course, it will be a good thing to do, because we will be giving incrementally and evolutively, iteratively, the solutions until we get something that it is good for everybody, even for business people. But if we don't have that situation, and if we have something more traditional, probably Agile is not the way. So yeah, that's my comment. Maybe Chester can continue. I don't know. Thank you, Chester.
Thanks.
No, you have answered it effectively. Thanks very much there, Sergio.
So Chester, we actually have a question here from Africa. Let's see here. It says, one of the issues trending in project management environment is the inflation rate management, especially here in Africa. How do you best manage this?
Yeah, that's a subject. I think in some of African countries, and it particularly affects obviously in terms of these through PMI. So these skills seeking opportunities always elsewhere where they can fight these issues of inflation that eat away in their value of the work that they contribute towards. So I think it's really about engagement, constant engagements. At the end of the day, with certain project managers, you can't run away from your country because the other countries have a limited capacity to welcoming all of us. You know, you can't run away from your place. So sometimes engagement is key. So engage through your own PMI chapter. I think that's one of the key themes of, we have a conference in Victoria Falls, so all of you are welcome to come to Victoria Falls in July, beautiful place. So one of our key objectives is, how do we engage government in getting project management and project managers recognized in getting value, even those who work in government, where they seem to get affected in terms of the how they are priced and appreciated as PMs. So I think it's about engagement. You really, really need to tackle that word thoroughly and find ways of engaging through your ministries, but as a chapter. So it's much more effective when you engage as a chapter than try to engage as single individual bodies.
Fantastic, thank you. Thomas, we have a question here about organizational culture and its impact on project management. We all know how important the organizational buy-in for your project management approach is important and part of your success. How would you go about selling, or well, I guess selling would be right, selling your project management idea to upper management or leadership in an organization?
Yeah. So I've done this several times, and always when you start a PMO, you have to find people who support you. You have a sponsor who wants something, who has a problem, and then you develop something that is of help, hopefully, that delivers a value. So, but I've also seen failures, if you maybe just became a PMP and you learn about all the stuff that's possible, and you try to bring this, let me call it bureaucracy, into an organization, you will feel a lot of resistance. So what you have to do is really to be of help in the short term, and the sponsor who tells you, please implement project management, he has a specific problem and you have to solve this problem, and this can be solved quite quickly often. Provide transparency, or make sure that this kind of failure doesn't happen again, implement risk management, whatever. He has a problem, he wants to have a solution, then you provide it. And then you go for the next problem, next solution. You do it really piecemeal by piecemeal. So how do I eat an elephant? Bite by bite, it's no other way to do it. I know if you have a PMP, and I felt the same way, you are proud, you learned a lot, and you finally have the structure in your head, how to do projects, and you like it. And then you go to your boss and say, I know how to do it. And, he will say, too much, how we cannot do that. You have to understand, and you learn about stakeholder engagement, what are the interests of the stakeholders, how to involve them, and how to convince them about something new. And if it's not helpful in the short term, you will have a lot of resistance and you will fail. And I have seen people leave a company because of that, because they took the wrong approach to try to eat the elephant in one bite.
Yes, so very true. Taking one bite of that elephant at a time. Thank you, Thomas. Sergio, we have a follow-up question, and this one's a little flipped from our other questions. What if management does have an agile mindset, but the frontline workers do not? How do you push that agile mindset from the top, middle, down?
Oh, you mean the top management, they have the agile mindset?
Yes.
And the frontline workers, they do not.
They do not.
Yeah, I prefer to have that problem instead of the other way around. Yeah, I prefer, because if the head is convinced, that's going to happen. It's a matter of time and assign resources. Yeah, so of course, there is a lot of workshop that has to be done, but the important thing is here not to impose. The important here is try to convince by results, by ways of trying to do some pilot, things like that, and to hear the people. Because if we're going to hear the contribution of them, because that's part of the idea, then they will feel that they are considered in the initiative of change, so they will not be reluctant to change. But the important thing is the head is really convinced we don't have a real problem here. It is just a matter of time. The important thing is to engage them and make them work. And if we see some kind of resistance, it will be easier to manage than if we don't have the convincements from above. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so true. I like that. If the head believes in it, it's going to happen. Right, let's see here. So here's one. Maybe we'll go back to is Janani still on here? I can only see so many pictures. Janani, we have a question in regards to a member who is managing a sanitation project, and they're doing a lot of civil construction activities, so civil engineering, but also married it with some software implementation as well. So what do you do to balance an approach where you need to have predictive life cycles along with agile life cycles?
Thanks, Justin. So I think the very first part to do this, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of civil construction and software implementation goes typically hand in hand. But I think if these are separate topics altogether, the best way to handle this is keep the trivial parts together from the non-trivial parts, which means whatever has a clarity in how things have to be delivered will have to be clubbed together, so then it can follow a traditional approach of project management. While if we see that there are certain non-trivial topics which probably would need a lot of exploration and things like that, can be grouped together to be handled in an agile or a hybrid manner. This is probably one way of approaching this. The other way could be, even within an agile, there are possibilities of having spikes where then you are able to handle all the non-trivial topics or exploratory topics within that path. So either ways, I think it has to be a combination of multiple approaches in order to achieve these cross-functional projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that people see a lot where there are elements where they're working agile, but they're needing to track in a serial or waterfall approach. And there are definitely ways to marry that. Knowing your critical path, right? So an important part of it. Thank you. Let's see here. We have so many questions here. I want to make sure we get to all of them. So we have another question here about building trust. Chester, how would you go about building trust with a virtual project team?
I was privileged to work with the third largest insurance company here and another one in Botswana, and it was all virtual. And you find in the first meeting, what we always call and advise is more of a mini 2-hour workshop where you actually allow everyone to express or introduce themselves, talk a little bit more about what they do and how they are involved in the company. So that's a very effective way of getting people on board, is to get them to talk and say something. Because in a virtual meeting, someone can just say, right, I am failing to unmute, I can't open my video, stuff like that. But you make it very specific and deliberate. Mm-hmm. My apologies, there's some saw machine going on. So you make it very deliberate as an agenda that you want everyone to say something about themselves, what they do in the organization, and why they are important. That way you get to build trust, you get to know who they are, and then get to the crux of the project.
Interesting. And we have a follow-up question to that, Chester, is what what advice would you give to a new PM just joining the organization that has a low level of trust? What can a PM do?
So I think also as a PM, getting into a one-on session where you find a little bit of resistance and do a bit of background check before you engage the individual. Just try and find out as much as you can, either through either it's the SPOC or what we call a product owner, someone who works internal in the organization or the department or the department manager, because they may have good insights. And you try and engage this individual on a one-to-one basis rather than in a group setting. They may not open up. So as a PM, you might just, I know it's a lot of work. Your task is to deliver project, and you are not there to babysit anyone and try and find out that their baby is having sleepless nights. But it's important to know that they're having sleepless nights. Their child is having sleepless nights, because then they are not contributing anything in the project because they are half asleep or they are worried about the things going on at their home. So you have to act with empathy. I think empathy is ultra important as a PM. It's one skill that one has to have, is being empathetic and isolate someone and understand what their real problem is.
Wow, great advice, Chester. I really like that. What a great way to wrap up our panelists today. Everyone, thank you so much for your great questions and all the amazing insight that we've gained from our panelists. We'll go ahead and hand it back to Priya.
Yes, and I will hand it over to Anita to do a summarization of the key learnings of this session. And trust works. Yes, thanks, Thomas, for that. Yes, Anita, over to you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, our wonderful panelists and moderator, for amazing discussion. It was full of insights. I was really astonished by how vibrant it was. To me, it was really full of insights, and I have few in my mind already. So, Sergio, from you, I'm taking away the sentence to keep myself up to date, to stay relevant in my career. And the sentence that I loved the most was more trust, less control. Chester, what I really loved about what you said was that we cannot run away from digital transformation. I was really astonished, and this sentence will stay with me for a long, long time. And thank you also for, I think, reminding us about how important stakeholder engagement is to deliver successful projects. Thomas, I will take with me your exercise, and thank you for reminding us about other senses that we have. Yeah, not only visual, but also we can smell, we can touch. So your exercise with smelling the project, I think it is something that we can try in our daily projects. And Janani, from you, we kind of reminded ourselves that pandemic proved that we can work from everywhere. And it was very important what you said, that to enable us to work in pandemic world in flexible, different working hours, just to make sure that we establish some digital dashboards. And we said a lot about visualizations, that we will probably should be looking for new tools in the market that enable us to work and communicate more efficiently. I really liked our discussion about hybrid methods, and I think I will summarize with the sentence of one of our attendees, that Agile is not a magic solution to manage all projects. And with that, thank you also our attendees for coming to listen to our a fantastic discussion. Please share your feedback. You can scan the QR code, and also there will be email sent afterwards with the link. You also can see on the screen PDU code, and it will be also included in the mailing. Please also tell us what topics you would like to have us discussed in later sessions. Thank you so much also, Sunil, for your help as WebEx admin. Thank you, Yuda, for fantastic flyers, and Damike for your social media support. Thank you so much. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you, Anita. And that was a very, very good wrap up. And everyone, thank you for joining in. For us, it is evening in India. For some of you, it was in the middle of the night. For some, it was very, very early morning. For some, it was almost lunchtime. But we thank you for giving your time and attention today. With this, we wrap up our Season 3 kickoff event of PMI Chapter Exchange. We will be back again next month. And PMI UAE chapter will be our spotlight chapter in that month. And we will be talking on the topic Project Manager of Today. So has the Project Manager of Today changed? Like now that we have gone through COVID for 2 years, what has changed? That is what we are going to discuss next month. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you soon. Bye-bye.